Hi, today I'd like to talk about my latest technical analysis for these 16 stocks that I recommend for long-term investing. So let's talk about Ayala Corporation first. Now for Ayala Corporation, its stock price already went below the 10-day simple moving average. Also, it's also below the 200-day simple moving average. At this point, I would say that Ayala Corporation is both moving inside the bearish territory both on the short-term and long-term perspectives. Okay? Now, why do I still have, or let's change the question. Do I still have a buy recommendation for Ayala Corporation? Yes, I still do. We do not allow short-term price fluctuations to affect our long-term stance on any stock that has good fundamentals. Short-term price fluctuations will never change the fundamentals of any company. Okay? Please remember that. Again, short-term price fluctuations cannot change the fundamentals of fundamentally sound company. Okay? So this is only a technical correction. So where are you going to buy then? I would suggest that you check our long-term investing watch list and then take a look at the top 5 prices with the highest number of trades column, or the top 5 prices with the biggest number of volume, or the VWAP column. VWAP stands for volume weighted average price point. You can also consider the top 10 players buying average or the top 10 players selling average as your um, candidates for a buying price or an entry price. Okay, there's a documentation in our quick start guide where I explained in detail how you can use these 5 columns as your buying candidates. For selling, as for your selling candidates, it's either you follow your trailing stop loss or your target selling price, our target selling price in here. If you'd like to know more about the trailing stop loss strategy, just go straight to newsletters and then head on to newsletter volume 1 number. Let's take a look. Where's that trailing stop loss? Volume 1 number 13. So I wrote this newsletter in vernacular, in Filipino or Tagalog, so that many of you would really have a solid and good understanding of what the trailing stop loss is, how to calculate it, and why you should use one. Okay? So let's go back to our Ayala Corporation chart. As I mentioned a while back, Ayala Corporation is now moving inside the bearish territory based on its position below the shorter term moving average and the longer term moving average. The intersection between these two moving averages is somewhere near 940 pesos per share. Immediate support or the major support is pegged at 874 pesos, while the major resistance is located near 120 pesos a piece. Now, if we're going to look at the volume, for sure you may want to ask, is it possible for Ayala Corporation to continue registering red candlesticks in the coming days, at least for the week, if not until next? Well, let's take a look at the volume. As I can see here, the volume of Ayala Corporation uh, is still within the normal range. So there's still a possibility that Ayala Corporation will retest will inch closer to the major support at 874, but it being at 912 pesos and 50 centavos, it has to break the midterm. Let me plot that midterm support level here. Before we can say that Ayala Corporation is really on its way toward retesting 874, the major support at 874, it has to break the midterm support at 899 or 900 pesos per share. So unless and until Ayala Corporation goes below 900 pesos per share, my conviction to say that Ayala Corporation is really on its way toward retesting 874 or 875 is really not that high. So keep an eye on the midterm support at 890 pesos per share. Now, we've talked about the volume. Now let's talk about the foreign investors' sentiment towards Ayala Corporation. If you're going to zoom out the stock, you can see here that there are more net foreign selling bars registered on Ayala Corporation than the net foreign buying bars, at least for the past at least until for the past year. Okay, so I would say that for the past 52 weeks, Ayala Corporation is on a net foreign selling status. Does that affect our buying sentiment on Ayala Corporation? No. As soon as our economy registers a GDP growth of 6 to maybe 6.3 to 65 to 6.5%, I would say that that's the time that the uh, foreign direct investments or FDIs would reinstate their appetite to go back to the Philippine economy to reinvest their dollars. So let's continue. Let's continue topping up on our investments on Ayala Corporation. I suggest you do it regularly. How regular is regular? If you can do it monthly, do it. Again, base your buying candidates on those 5 columns that I mentioned a while back. From here, the top 5 prices, trades, top 5 prices volume, VWAP, top 10 players buying average, and top 10 players selling average. Okay. Now for the MACD, since the price of Ayala Corporation is below the two moving averages, MACD is also below the signal line. It's in a bearish convergence, or it's moving in a bearish direction together with the signal line. That's what I see on the MACD. So if you're looking for my 10 SMA and MACD combination, if you are following my 10 SMA and MACD combo to identify a buy signal, well, I'm sorry for now. Ayala Corporation, that combo of indicators does not show or does not emit a buy signal on Ayala Corporation for now. But still, we're doing a long-term investing. We're doing long-term investing. We don't do short-term trading on Ayala Corporation. So you can ignore those short-term price or technical corrections. Okay? The fundamentals of Ayala Corporation remain intact. So our buy case is still strong. If and when our buy case remains strong, then we continue buying that stock. Okay? Now for the RSI, it's still moving inside the neutral territory. Okay? So again, continue buying on Ayala Corporation. Now let's move on to our next stock, which is Ayala Land Incorporated. For Ayala Land Incorporated, the major support is pegged at 36.25, while the major resistance is positioned near 47.60. So it's much closer. As we can see on the chart, Ayala Land is much closer to the major resistance than to the major support. So this is a good picture we're seeing in here. Ayala Land was able to print a candlestick price that's moving above the 10-day simple moving average. What I really like the most about this alignment of moving averages is the shorter term moving average hovering, moving positioned above the longer term simple moving average, which is the 200-day SMA. So this is now a confirmation. This alignment is a confirmation of the bullish price trajectory of Ayala Land, both on the short term and long term basis. Now let's take a look at the volume. So today we can see that since the 7th of January until today, until the first half of trading today, it seems that Ayala Land has been moving sideways. For the past 3 days, I can see a decline in volume, of Ayala Land Corporation, but I think this is negligible, or it's not that alarming yet. Still, we have I maintain my buy position or my buy recommendation for Ayala Land Incorporated. After all, we still have a high or an attractive upside percentage for Ayala Land. Um, Last year, I have set the target selling price for Ayala Land at 52.85. Currently, Ayala Land is still at 44.75, so that's still a handsome upside for Ayala Land. If you have Ali, continue topping up on this stock based on these 5 columns that we have on our long-term investing watch list. Okay, now for the foreign investor sentiment towards Ayala Land, looking at this now, if we're going to disregard the transactions of the foreign investors on in February, particularly in the last week of February last year, it seems that Ayala Land is still on a net foreign selling status for the past 52 weeks. But in the past, this in the past in the first few weeks of this year, this new year, we've seen a reversal, of foreign investor sentiment towards Ayala Land. So we have seen those net foreign buying rather, net foreign buying bars being registered since the 3rd of January 2019. So this is a good indicator of after being battered, for how many months, it looks like the foreign investors' sentiment is going back to Ayala Land Incorporated. So this is a buy for me. Now for the MACD, even though the MACD line zooming out the chart, it seems that MACD has already crossed below the signal line, which is an indicator of a short-term bearish price action. We can ignore that. We can still ignore that. I maintain my bullish sentiment on Ayala Land, since its price is still moving above the 10-day simple moving average. But regardless, just in case Ayala Land goes below the 10-day simple moving average this afternoon and MACD continues to go below the signal line, I'm going to disregard those 2 indicators and continue my buy recommendation or buying stance on Ayala Land. RSI tells us that Ayala Land maintains its position in the neutral territory. Now let's go back to our list. Now, by the way, a while back I wasn't able to mention the target selling price of Ayala Corporation. Our target selling price for Ayala Corporation is at 1,220 pesos, giving us an upside of 32.39%. For Ayala Land, our upside, just like what I mentioned a while back, remains handsome at 18.63%. Now for BDO, our target selling price is at 194.50, giving us a very attractive upside percentage, which is near 49%. Now let's take a look at the chart of BDO. For BDO, now pulling up the chart of BDO here, we can see that its major support sits at near 108 or 109 pesos a piece, while its major resistance is positioned near 137.60 pesos, or 137 pesos and 60 centavos rather. Just like Ayala Land, BDO's price is moving above the short-term SMA and the long-term SMA, and I also like the alignment of its moving averages, since the shorter-term SMA is moving above the longer-term SMA. So this is an indication or a confirmation of BDO's bullish stance both on the short-term and long-term perspectives. Now looking at the volume here, I have noticed that the volume since yesterday has gotten flimsy. It's getting thinner, so let's wait for the trading to resume this afternoon and see if there will be a recovery in terms of volume. I have also noticed that the BDO has gone sideways since the second week of December last year. I don't see any liquidity issue here, but if BDO would show us an outstanding volume today, if not today, maybe until Friday, then there's a chance for BDO to inch up a little bit higher, maybe closer to 137.60. But for as long as we don't see this stock moving, let me plot this midterm support here. For as long as BDO is not moving below 125.37 a piece, it's safe to say that BDO that there's a slim chance of seeing BDO going near 108 or maybe until 114. Okay, so just keep take a note, take note, take note of these midterm support levels here at 125 and 114. Okay, so we still maintain a buy rating for I still maintain a buy rating for BDO. Now for the foreign investors sentiment towards BDO, zooming out the stock, I would say that for 2018 BDO is one of those battered stocks when it comes to the outflow of foreign funds. Nonetheless, it seems that BDO already found its bottom, its psychological bottom at near 107 or 108 pesos last October last year, and it's now on its way to recovery as it has already soared above the 200-day SMA, which is my indicator for the stance of the stock on a long-term horizon. Now, when it comes to MACD and RSI, I would say that because of the short-term sideways movement of BDO, that has affected the movement of MACD below the signal line. Even nonetheless, RSI is still moving inside the neutral territory. So there's nothing alarming. I don't see anything alarming on the MACD and RSI histograms. So despite the outflow of foreign funds on BDO, I still keep my buy recommendation for this particular stock because of the upside percentage that's near 49%. Now for SEB, let's take a look at the chart of SEB. Now while the chart is being loaded, I would like to note that our target selling price for SEB is at 127 pesos a piece, which gives us an upside percentage that's near 53%. Now, looking at the chart of SEB here, the major resistance is pegged at 95 pesos a piece, while the major support is positioned at 61 pesos or 61.30 to be exact. I also like the alignment of the short-term SMAs and the long-term SMA of SEB or Cebu Air Incorporated, as the price is continuously moving above the 10-day simple moving average, and the 10-day simple moving average maintains its position above the 200-day SMA. So I like the trajectory of the price above the short-term SMA and the position of the shorter-term SMA above the longer-term SMA. So when was this? That was January 3. Last January 3, it was good to see SEB breaking out above the midterm resistance at 77 pesos. It was able to break out from that midterm resistance level as the January 3, 2019. Today, as of this reporting, SEB is already trading at 83.30 pesos, 83 pesos and 30 centavos a piece. With regard to the foreign investors' participation in trading Cebu Pacific, there's not much. Foreign investors are not that participative on SEB relative to the size of their participation with the other stock recommendations that I have for you, particularly on the banking sector and the property sector. Okay. Nonetheless, Cebu Pacific um, has benefited from the downward adjustment made on the price of crude oil, and because of that downward adjustment, it will positively impact its income statement for the coming quarter, especially this 2019. So this is in these oil price adjustment, downward adjustment is favorable for um, for Cebu Air Incorporated or SEB. Now for the MACD and RSI, the MACD of Cebu Pacific is moving above the signal line, which is again it's a confirmation of the bullish stance of Cebu Pacific, and RSI is also moving towards the northward northward direction. Although it's somewhat close, it's closer to the 80 score on RSI. I suggest that you do not follow the classical interpretation of RSI when it touches the 80 score. So that's not a sell indicator for me. Okay? Your sell indicator should only be our target selling price or your personal trailing stop loss. Your personal trailing stop loss for any stock. Okay? So we do not use the classical interpretations of RSI um, for our selling decisions. Now going back to the next chart, we have DMC. For DMC, we still have an upside percentage of 34%. Our target selling price for DMC is pegged at 16 pesos and 50 centavos. Now let's take a look at this chart of DMC. DMC is now moving below the 10-day simple moving average, but gladly it's still spotted above the 200-day simple moving average. This stock being positioned above the 200-day simple moving average makes me say that it's still moving inside the bullish territory as far as long-term investment horizon is concerned. However, on a short-term basis, this stock has already entered the short-term territory. Again, because we do long-term investing on DMC, we will have to ignore short-term price technical corrections and stick with the fundamentals, the sound fundamentals of the stock. For the volume, I still do not see any liquidity issue. That's already given, um, since this is highly liquid stock. Okay. Now for the foreign investors' participation on DMC, zooming out the stock, we can see a mixture of foreign investor sentiment on this particular DMC. But there was a regularity of net foreign selling days last year, January 2018 up until June 2018. For the first half of 2018, we saw a regularity of net foreign selling days, but for beginning the second half of 2018 until this year, there seems to be a mixture of sentiment coming from the foreign investors. Now, as far as the first few days of trading this January 2019, I see more net foreign selling days than net foreign buying days. So, as far as January month to date is concerned, DMC has a net foreign selling status. Net foreign selling status, yes. Now, for the MACD and RSI, due to the short-term price fluctuation, DMC's MACD is moving below the signal line, and RSI is still moving neutral. So again, maintain your buying stance on DMC. Now let's take a look at DNL. Now let's check how much upside percentage we have for DNL. DNL's target selling price is positioned or plotted at 12 pesos and 80 centavos and still gives us an acceptable upside percentage of 10.50%. Now let's talk about the chart of DNL. Okay, so the major support of DNL is at 9.65. It seemed to have, well, not just it seemed, but it has really found its psychological bottom at 9.65 October last year, October 2018. Now its major resistance, I plotted it near 12.76. Let's see if how near was that. Okay, that's almost our target selling price for DNL. Now I'm just waiting for the annual income statement or annual financial statement report of DNL. If I remain positive on the financial statement of DNL for 2018, there's a chance for me to upgrade our target selling price from 12.80 to somewhere near 14 or 14 to 15 range. Okay, so take note of that. But for now, until we see the financial statement of annual financial statement or report of DNL, let's stick with the target selling price of 12.80 with an upside of almost 11%. DNL still moves above the 10-day simple moving average, and this shorter term SMA is also moving above the longer term SMA. That's a pretty cool alignment. It's a confirmation of the, again, bullish stance of traders on DNL, both on the short term and long term time horizons. Now let's take a look at the volume. I still see no liquidity issue on the volume of DNL. That's given. For the for the foreign investor stance on DNL, it's quite interesting to see that unlike those previous stocks that I've discussed, I see some love coming from the foreign investors being given to DNL here, particularly since October 2018. That was the month when we deemed it when that was the month when DNL found its psychological bottom near 9.65. Okay, so I'd also like to add a midterm support range for DNL here at 11.40. So it's good to see that DNL managed to break out at above 11.40 last 11th of January. Okay, and it's now moving at 11.68. Okay, now let's talk about the next stock. Next we have GT Cap. For GT Cap, we have a target selling price of 1,430 pesos. That gives us a very generous upside percentage of 38%. Now, talking about the position of GT Cap on the candlestick histogram, we see here that GT Cap is moving above the shorter term SMA, and this shorter term SMA is also moving above the longer term SMA. That's a perfect combination of a confirmed bullish sentiment both on the short term and long term perspectives. There's no liquidity issue as usual. Now, for the foreign investor sentiment, zooming out the chart, I would say that if we're going to base our calculation since the January of 2018, then obviously I would say that GT Cap is on a net foreign selling status. But if we're going to base the sentiment or the stance of the foreign investors on GT Cap for this year only for 2019, then GT Cap is on a net foreign buying mode or net foreign buying status. There, I've noticed a reversal in the bearish sentiment of the foreign investors towards GT Cap since the second week of November last year. So from going aggressive, from selling aggressively in August last year, which lasted until the second week of October, that bearish stance of foreign investors towards GT Cap seemed to have reversed since the beginning of the second week of November last year, and it managed to sustain that bullish or buying appetite on GT Cap until this month of 2019, January 2019. Now for the MACD and RSI, MACD still there's a thin line here, okay? There's a thin line movement on the MACD, but it's moving above the signal line, and RSI is still inside the neutral territory, although it's much closer to the overbought level. Nonetheless, we will have to ignore the classical interpretation of RSI, being that we still have a very handsome upside percentage towards this stock. Now, let's talk about ICT, our next stock, or International Container Terminal Services. Our target selling price for ICT is positioned at 115 pesos, giving us now a relatively slim upside percentage of almost 6%. Let's take a look at the major support and resistance levels of ICT. So for ICT, our major support is positioned at 87 pesos and the major resistance is positioned near 114 pesos and 50 centavos. So this is very close to the resistance level already. Now I'd like to plot again a midterm support on our chart, so just you can see this. I'd like to highlight this one. Okay, so ICT managed to break out above 98 pesos, the midterm resistance at 98 pesos on the last week of November last year. Okay, now I'm going to keep you posted if I see some evidence that would warrant or that would make me upgrade the target selling price for ICT, but for now I would like to keep it at 115 pesos. I'm going to keep you posted should I decide to maintain or no, should I decide to upgrade this one at 120 or maybe up until 125 per share, but for now let's keep it at 115 pesos a piece. Now, as far as the price movement of ICT is concerned, it's still spotted above the 10-day moving average, and this shorter term SMA is still beautifully moving above the longer term SMA. No liquidity issues are spotted. Now for the net foreign selling, if we're going to zoom out the stock, zoom out the chart up until December 2018, January of 2018, then ICT is on a net foreign styling status. It's still the same if you will just consider the net foreign investors trades or activities from December up to January. So nonetheless, we're going to ignore that. Um, we're going to ignore the bearish sentiment of foreign investors towards ICT since it seems that the local traders remain positive, and it seems that their sentiment is the dominant one in this particular case. As you can see here, let me plot this deeper support level as well. So ICT managed to soar above its psychological bottom at near 77 pesos last June 2018. So from 77 pesos, it's now trading at 107 pesos a piece. Okay, so let's just let's just let this ICT to do its thing. So just in case it hits our target selling price and I'm not yet that convinced to upgrade its TSP to something higher, then I'm going to give you a buy signal for ICT. But for now, keep your eyes on ICT and for further updates. Now, let's talk about Jollibee Foods Corporation or JFC. JFC has a target selling price of 373 pesos and 60 centavos, which puts the upside percentage at 15%. Now, let's talk about its chart here. So I have plotted here a Fibonacci retracement here just so I could identify its next psychological resistance. Okay, so its psychological resistance. First off, the major support here is plotted at 242 pesos or 243 pesos if you would like to round it off. Now its midterm resistance, it's at 305 pesos 85 centavos or 306 pesos if you would like to round it off again. Now I have plotted this Fibonacci just so we could check the possible psychological resistance that it has above the 324 pesos territory. So let's take a look at this. Let me pull this over. Okay, give me 1 second here as I try to manipulate on this chart. Okay, give me a few more seconds here as I try to drag it down um, closer to the bottom. It's it's not moving. It's not moving down. Anyway, I'm just going to let's go back to this stock after once I'm done discussing the other stocks, just so not to not to cut the momentum here. Okay, now for this particular stock, Jollibee Foods Corporation, again, there's no liquidity issue. As far as the foreign investor sentiments are concerned, I would say that the buying appetite of the foreign investors towards JFC has returned beginning December last year. We still see a few net foreign selling days registered on some trading days, but overall, from December up to this day, we still see an overall net foreign buying sentiment for JFC. MACD remains bullish as it continues to soar above the signal line. RSI maintains its position inside the neutral territory. Okay, let's see now if we can drag this stock so we can see the psychological resistance above the 325 level. Let's see if that will make any difference. Okay, there you go. So finally, let me go back to this chart and rearrange the origin of this Fibonacci retracement. So the psychological resistance above the 324 pesos a piece is positioned at 370 pesos or 371 pesos to round it off. Let's go back to our target selling price. Our target selling price, the TSP that I plotted for JFC last year, remains at 373 pesos and 60 centavos. See here, the psychological resistance of JFC is pegged at 370 pesos and 56 centavos. It's relatively close to the target selling price that I've set for this particular stock. So I'll keep you updated should I see the need to upgrade the target selling price for Jollibee Foods Corporation. So I'm just waiting for the annual income statement, 2018 annual income statement of Jollibee Foods Corporation. I'll keep you posted. Now let's talk about MBT. Now for Metrobank, our target selling price is at 88 pesos and 70 centavos. It only gives us about 8.70% upside percentage. Now let's take a look at the chart of MBT. Is it soaring above the short-term moving average or it's already below it? As we see here, MBT is still enjoying its position above the 10-day simple moving average. And this shorter term SMA also enjoys its position above the longer term SMA. So we can say that MBT is bullish both on the short term and long term time horizons. There's no liquidity issue as usual for this blue chip stock. Foreign investors, let's zoom out the chart. For the foreign investors, it's quite noticeable the succession of net foreign selling days especially from June 2018 all the way until no, the second week of November last year. So it almost engulfed the second half of 2018 as far as net foreign selling sentiment is concerned. But it's also noticeable that there's a reversal of a reversal on the foreign investors' appetite to reacquire the shares that they have vomited on MBT. There's a reversal of sentiment in the last week of November last year. Okay, so and that supported. I think that was the we can say I can say that that's one of the catalysts that supported the ascent of MBT. So this chunky net foreign buying days here last week, which happened in the last week of November 2018, that is one of the catalysts that supported the ascent of the price of MBT. Okay, now MBT, although it's moving below the 10 days, although the MACD of MBT is moving below the signal line, I am seeing a bullish divergence between MACD and the signal line, and MACD is poised to cross above the signal line. RSI maintains its neutral position. Okay, so maintain your buying stance on MBT. If you already have MBT since last year, so if you have had MBT since last year, I would say it's either you continue topping up on this stock together with what's the other stock that has a very thin upside percentage, ICT. If you have ICT and if you have MBT as well, and if you have other stocks that are present in this long-term investment watch list, it's either you continue topping up on ICT and MBT, or you hold your position, don't buy and sell on ICT and MBT, but top up on your other stocks that also belong from this list, from this long-term investment watch list. Or you can pick another stock that has a big upside percentage and focus your buying power to that new stock. Okay, since we just have a relatively slim upside percentage for ICT and MBT. Now let's talk about our next stock pick. So we have MEG. So we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more stocks to discuss. Stocks to be discussed. Let's talk about Mega World. For Mega World, we have an upside percentage of 629, nearly 30%, and our target selling price is positioned at 6 pesos and 90 centavos. Mega World is currently trading at 5 pesos and 31 centavos, but this price movement maintains its position above the 10-day simple moving average, and this shorter term SMA is also soaring above the longer term SMA, and that's again a confirmed bullish direction, a confirmed bullish stance of traders towards Mega World. There are no liquidity issues. Net foreign, the foreign investors have registered a steady, wow, this is a steady net foreign buying since January 8th. So let's see today if um, the foreign investors will maintain their foreign buying stance on Mega World. Let's see by 3:30 this afternoon. Now for MACD, the position of MACD above the signal line just confirms the bullish sentiment, or the bullish stance of investors on Mega World, both on the short term and long term time horizons. RSI maintains its position near the neutral territory, although it's closer to the overbought level than the oversold level. Again, we will ignore the classical way of interpreting the signal coming from the RSI and keep our buying stance steady as the price draws closer to our target selling price. So we still have a handsome upside percentage on MegaWorld, so keep on buying on this stock. For MPI, we have a hefty upside percentage at 56%, being the target selling price. It's at 7 pesos and 80 centavos. MPI, let's pull up the chart of MPI. This stock is trading at 4 pesos and 91 centavos. So although today's candlestick drops below the 10-day simple moving average, this stock is still moving above the 200-day simple moving average, which maintains its bullish position on a long-term time horizon. No liquidity issues are spotted as well. I just want to draw another midterm support or midterm resistance here. The midterm resistance is positioned at 5 pesos and 8 centavos. So what we want to see here is an increase in volume, specifically bullish volume that would pierce the midterm resistance at 5 pesos and 8 centavos. If and when that happens, well, obviously that will put back the price or the candlestick above the 10-day simple moving average. But other than that, that will change the southward direction, the bending of the MACD line pointed towards the southward direction. That will change that. So MACD, if that happens, MACD will again bend towards the northward direction, and of course RSI will follow suit. Now, when it comes to foreign investor sentiment on MPI, zooming out the chart, including the 2018 foreign investor sentiment on MPI all the way to January month to date, it's a net foreign selling status. But I've noticed here that since January 9 all the way to January 14, foreign investors registered a sizable net foreign selling days on those not just 4 but 6 days straight from routing from January 9 all the way until January 16. It failed to register a continuous net foreign buying days rather on January 17. So let's see this week if we're going to see another net foreign buying bar registered on a net foreign selling histogram. Okay, so let's take a look at the next stock. So we have Pure Gold. For Pure Gold, P Gold, we have an upside percentage of almost 33% with our target selling price position at 60 pesos and 50 centavos. Looking at its chart, Pure Gold is now trading at 45 pesos and 20 centavos as of recess this morning. On the other hand, Pure Gold already went below. It already broke below not only below the 10-day simple moving average, but also below the 200-day moving average. What we don't want to see here is Pure Gold moving or going back. Let me plot the midterm support for you. What we don't want to see here is Pure Gold going below 45, because if it goes below 45 and it's supported by a towering bearish volume, then the chances of it wanting to retest another midterm support at 42 will just increase then. So we don't want Pure Gold to go below 45. If it goes below 45 supported by a towering volume, then the chances of it retesting the support at 42.14 will become imminent. Okay, so those are the price points that we need to watch on Pure Gold. Now for liquidity, we know that we know that Pure Gold has quite fluctuating liquidity. Okay, especially if we're going to zoom out the chart, the volume chart, all the way uh, to the beginning of 2018, January 2018. But we saw a spike in volume in the beginning of trading this year, and hopefully we're hoping that we're going to see this spike in volume again, of course in support to the bullish price action of Pure Gold, so that it will draw closer to our target selling price of 60.50. um, Again, continue your, if you have Pure Gold, continue your top up, continue with your top up schedule on this particular stock. Now for RLC, we only have an upside percentage of somewhere around 12% on RLC, being our target selling price is pegged at 25 pesos and 80 centavos. Now let's take a look at the chart of RLC. Currently, RLC is trading at 22 pesos and 95 centavos, with its major support sitting at 17 pesos and 52 centavos. But since RLC already broke above the previous resistance at 22 pesos, that 22 pesos is now stands as this stock's support level, making 26 pesos and 60 centavos its new major resistance level. We want to see continuity on the uptrend of RLC from here. This is one of the stocks that I'm particularly bullish, because of its uh, strong ascent, because of the strong momentum that was registered when it broke above 22 pesos. We want to see this stock. We want to see the simple moving average soaring above the long term, or the 200-day simple moving average, and the MACD going above the signal line as well. So gladly, despite this bullish stance of RLC, RSI maintains its position inside the neutral territory. Okay, volume-wise, there's no liquidity issue. For the foreign investors, um, there were some net foreign buying days that were registered in the beginning of trading this year. But if we're going to consider um, the entire reel for 2018, of course, RLC is also one of those stocks battered by the outflow of foreign funds. Okay, so there. So what will what do we need for us to see RLC inch closer to 26.6 and not go back below 22 pesos a piece? We want to see a steady but high volume in favor of the bullish price action of RLC. That's only it. The volume, we want to see that. It will be a bonus if the foreign investors will continue to register net foreign buying days on on RLC. But primarily, it's the volume that we want to see here. A steady volume, steady but high volume in favor of the bullish price action of RLC. Okay, so I'll keep you posted as well should I see the need to upgrade the target selling price of RLC. But for now, that's what I have for you. For Security Bank, we're down to two more stocks. We're down to two stocks. So for Security Bank, we have a very generous upside percentage of 68, nearly 69%, since our target selling price is planted at 299 a piece. Security Bank is currently trading at 175 pesos per share. Last year, last 2017, it registered um, the resistance last 2017 was near 267 pesos. Okay, for Security Bank. Now let's talk about um, the current price action of Security Bank. the position or the alignment of the moving averages of Security Bank is not what we would like is not what we would like to see on any of the stocks that we have, particularly when it comes to our stocks for long-term investing. Why did I say that? Because the 200-day SMA of SECB is hovering. It's above the 200-day SMA. Is there something alarming to that? It's not really alarming to the truest sense of the word, but I would prefer I would prefer seeing stocks that are with their shorter term SMAs moving above the longer term SMAs. So we would like to we're hoping for Security Bank to gather enough bullish momentum so it could reverse the alignment that we see right now. We want to see this green line, this 10-day SMA. We want to see this moving above the blue line. The blue line is the 200-day SMA. What do we need for us to see that? We would need the price, of course, the price action to go to the northward direction with support coming from the volume. Because if Security Bank will inch upward or will move upward, but volume is very flimsy, very thin, it's not significant, then there's a chance for that upward price direction not to last long. So we want to see whenever a stock goes up, we want a volume that's also uh, somewhat gigantic in nature or somewhat supportive to the price action. Okay, so that there's a so that we can say that the ascent can be is more likely to continue. Okay, so that's the price volume um, association. Now for the net foreign, the foreign investor stance on Security Bank, if you're going to include what happened in 2018, I would say again that Security Bank has a net foreign selling status coming from the foreign investors. Uh, there's not much interesting foreign buying activity spotted in the beginning of the year. Well, let's see how will Security Bank play the remaining days of the month. MACD Security Bank's MACD is also poised to cross below the signal line. Again, that's not the kind of picture we want to see. Although RSI is still moving inside the neutral territory, the last line is pointed towards the southward direction. So again, we want to see a reversal on the price action of Security Bank, but um, let me plot another midterm support level here that we should watch. For me, if and when Security Bank maintains its position above the 167 pesos per share level, then we're fine. The chances of it retesting the support level at 133 pesos will be minimal. So we want to see, again, just to clarify that, I want to see Security Bank maintain its position above the 167 level. It's fine if it will just continue to move sideways from here as it gathers enough momentum to go back up. But if and when it goes below 167 pesos a piece, then the chances of it retesting the support at 130 pesos uh, is high already. Okay, so last stock from our list, but not the list. Okay, last stock from our list, but not the least. Okay, is SM Prime Holdings with an upside percentage of 9.3% with the target selling price position at 42 pesos and 90 centavos. So let's see what's the latest update with SM Prime Holdings. Okay, so in this particular chart, I also plotted a Fibonacci retracement so we could check the psychological resistance of SM Prime Holdings since it's about to pierce the resistance at 40 pesos or 39.70. Currently, SM Prime Holdings is trading at 39 pesos and 35 centavos. Its price is it's good to see. Again, this is the kind of picture we want to see on the stocks that we have for long-term investing. The price is moving above the short-term, the 10-day SMA, and the 10-day SMA is moving above the 200-day SMA, which is a confirmation of this stock's bullish stance both on the short-term and long-term perspectives. Now let's take a look at the psychological support of, or resistance rather, of SM Prime Holdings. So I see it at 44.93%. So let's go back to our target selling price. The target selling price I've given to you for SMPH is pegged at 42 pesos and 90 centavos, while in here the resistance is at 44.90 pesos. So I'll keep you posted again if I see the need to upgrade the target selling price of SMPH in the next few days or next few weeks. Now for the foreign investor sentiment on SMPH, zooming out the stock, I can see, we see here that if we're going to include the entire activities of the foreign investors in 2018 all the way to January 2019 month to date, of course SMPH is one of those foreign investors battered stocks. It's on a net foreign selling status, but there seems to be a shift that happened last January 2 all the way to January 15. So those were the days when net foreign buying bars were registered. A sizable 508 million worth of net foreign selling happened last January 16. It continued on January 17, although the net foreign selling amount that was registered on January 17 was not as significant, was not as sizable. I think it was just only one-fifth of the net foreign selling that was registered last January 16. Now, good thing to see that net foreign buying was reinstated or has been reinstated since January 18. Let's wait for the end of trading today to see if foreign investors will register another net foreign buying day. Okay, so there you go for the update on SM Prime Holdings. By the way, the major resistance is at 44.9, and we're waiting for SMPH to break out above 39.70. Well, 39.70 is still the acting immediate resistance. I have just advanced the psychological resistance at 44.90 pesos using the Fibonacci retracement or extension. Now for the midterm support level, let me plot that for you. Okay, so for the midterm support level, it's positioned at 35 pesos and 40 centavos. So unless and until, or if SMPH decides to move sideways from here, and just in case it will make an attempt to retest the midterm support at 35 pesos and 40 centavos, we should be fine for as long as it maintains its position above 35.40. Okay, so that's an update. Again, MACD is still below the signal line, but if and when SMPH breaks above 40 pesos a piece, then it will just be an easy peasy for MACD to cross above to overtake the signal line. Gladly, RSI still maintains a neutral stance despite the position of the stock price closer to the resistance at 40 pesos. So those are the updates for the 16 stocks that I have for you for long-term investing. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask on the individual thread of these stocks. So for example, if you have a question about Ayala Corporation, please do not post the question on any thread. Do not post your question about Ayala Corporation on the thread of BDO. Do not post your Ayala Corporation request on the wrong forum. So don't ask about any of the long-term investing stocks inside the short-term trading forum. Of course, don't ask about it inside the stock analysis requests but only inside the long-term investing forum. So let's maintain this organization to keep our discussions and focused and organized. Again, my name is JC De Guzman. This is my latest technical analysis for the 16 stocks that I recommend for short-term for long-term investing rather. Again, I would recommend you to watch the videos that I published on the videos tab. This is the latest feature that we have for you at Equipix. I'm going to upload this video as well on this table, so you will see this video soon on this tab. Okay, thank you and have a good day.